2 episodes in 1 month. We did it, you guys. Some consistency. It's me, Chopsy, and you're listening to the Caffeine Fueled Creatives Podcast. Welcome back, everyone. I can't believe it. We're moving right along. 2 episodes in 1 month. Can you believe it? This week, I sat down with an amazing illustrator, Sam Fortner, to talk about art and art education and pretty much whatever we could think of. The recording was done on location at Sam's house with my Surface Pro and some lapel mics. So there's some little quirks about the recording where the mics dropped off or the recording kind of like stalled. It's fine. You'll hear it. It sounds like I made some like editing cuts that I really didn't do. It just glitched a little. Well, without further ado, my interview with Sam. I'm here with Sam Fortner. Yeah, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and give me like the elevator pitch of what you do.
Elevator of who I am. I'm an illustrator. My tags are always different too. I say I'm a madman of many hats. I like to draw. Traditionally, right now, inking on Bristol for a comic, so I'm a comic creator. I write for that. My comic doesn't have words, so to say I write it, it's kind of hard to explain, but I do.
No, I get that. I do a lot of silent comics.
And it takes a lot of writing, right?
It does. There's a surprising amount of writing that goes into something that has very little like dialogue in it.
I save the folders of all the work that I do, and just every little scrap of idea that you have that goes down, it goes into it somehow. I'm also a wood carver, toy maker. I make toys out of hot glue and other things, but I like to say that's kind of the main ingredient.
Yeah, and we'll grab a few pictures of those to post on Instagram and in like the blog post for the podcast, so that way people can kind of see those as well.
Very cool.
So
appreciate it.
Cool. So I mean, you kind of answered my second question already, which was your medium of choice. It's kind of all over the place.
It is. I like to do. If I had to sit down and do one thing, it would be drawing and then inking on paper. The woodworking is something that I just can't stop doing. And I love having something different that's physical that I can do different. It's like having a hobby that's good so that you're not just overdoing one thing.
So when you're doing your comics, obviously, and different art pieces, I see ones around your room that are obviously fully like traditional art. But for your comics, are you just inking them and then coloring them digitally, or is it all traditional?
That is inked digitally. Yeah. I'm sorry, colored digitally.
Gotcha.
And actually, I fix up a lot of the ink work digitally too. I was trying to use whiteout and do it traditionally that way. I haven't found a whiteout I like, but sometimes I'll just do some fixing on the line work in Photoshop.
So you haven't found a whiteout that you like? Any particular reason?
They seem to all turn gray or blue. I saw one at the last con I was at. Van Notes had one that just was still white on the pages, and if I can get it, I think it was Pintel brand.
So is that just more of after you scan it and trying to deal with it, it's not white enough on the page, or?
That's because I use really fine pencil work. I scan my pencils in color instead of just black and white because it picks up every little nuance.
Gotcha.
And so I think, and also once I scan in the line work, I still bump the levels to make the whites whiter and the blacks blacker in some spots. So there is some cheating to clean up the line.
I was going to say, if you just scan it, you ink it, and then just scan in black and white, anything that's not black and white doesn't get picked up. But I guess if you're trying to get, that little bit of pencil shading that's still on the page and things like that, it makes sense.
There are some tiny details. Some people say I'm a perfectionist, but I think I'm far from that. I think my work is not perfectionism, but there is sometimes obsessed with detail. And there's things that I think every artist has that where there's something that you're focused on, and to you, different if you didn't make this change, but to anybody else, they wouldn't notice the change.
Yeah, makes sense. So this is like a standard question that I'm sure you get from everyone at cons and everyone, wherever you talk to people. And generally that's like, when did you get into art? But it's like a two-part question because I'm guessing with like a lot of people, it's going to be a very similar, like, I started drawing as a kid and just kind of never stopped. So like how you first started doing art would be, I'm looking for, but then I'd also, well, I'll get to the second part of the question after you get that part down.
Okay, I love that question too.
Yeah.
Because I've been talking about that with a friend that's another local artist, Sugar May.
Yep.
She's so cool. But we're always talking. She always asks me, or she asked me once that basically the same question. And when I was a kid, I lived out in the desert, middle of nowhere in Mountain Home, Idaho, just very rural. And there was a house out in the middle of nowhere that had a giant dragon, and I don't know if it was Chinese or Japanese style, but it was a big dragon painted on the garage door, as big as a garage door. And every time we drove past that, it just fascinated me. I never saw art outside anywhere ever, and it just really fascinated me. And so it's funny where Sugar May will always remind me. She's like, "Remember your garage dragon."
Nice.
So that's cool. But another significant time, just I think that got me doing it because I got attention for what I drew was in kindergarten. I just drew a picture of a dog that was supposed to be jumping, and I did motion him, and just those motion lines, the teacher noticed and just said that, and so I started feeling that my value was in drawing.
Gotcha. Makes sense, I think. Yeah, again, I think a lot of us early on as kids were like, wait, I drew this and people thought it was cool. They liked this. Like, what else can I do that gets this kind of attention?
Yeah.
And that brings me to the second part of it. When did you first, like, start taking art seriously and, like, putting yourself out there?
I love that. That is a good question too. Uh, I I have had so many regular jobs in my life. I've had more jobs than I can count on my fingers and toes, and they're all starter jobs. I've worked basically every position in restaurants, basically every thing you can do on a construction site to build a house. I've done just about all of those types of things and a lot of other starter jobs. And I had I had gotten fired from I was doing a call center job, and I had worked my way up to a manager pretty quickly, and it was I was getting probably paid more than I ever had for any other job before, but it just was hell. The call center was not cool at all. And I got fired, and then I kind of got this strain of getting fired because usually I quit a job. There was just so many opportunities. I'm good at faking a resume. I'll get a job and quit a job, and they're all beginner jobs, so it doesn't matter anyway, as long as you can do any of the basic stuff. And I was doing it. I got a job at a Fred Meyer, and I finally got my way into managing a shoe department. And I always have wanted just a boring job so that I would have time to focus on doing something creative in my off time, or just so that it wasn't zapping my energy. And it was so easy. I didn't have to do anything. It didn't pay much, but it was so easy. I never had to interact with people. But just uh, Amy's dad passed away, and we went to go clear out his house, and it was, it was almost like I was seeing into the future as myself if I kept going the way I was, just because he was a big alcoholic, kind of did drugs and stuff, and he had a lot of hobbies. He was a really creative guy. He did a lot of really smart stuff. He built these RC cars, but just like what I knew of him, I was just like, well, he works hard. He was a hardworking guy, and I just it just kind of scared me, and I thought this is what I'm going to be like. So I talked to Amy, and I said, I think I need to really take this jump right now. I want to actually start trying to make art and make money at it. And I know at first it's going to be hard. It's going to be some sacrifice, but it's what I want to try to do. It just kind of made me think I have to go and do this thing. And she let me quit that job. I quit. I put in my 2 weeks notice, but only stayed for a week. I'm 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 really employable, but I'm not a great employee. Like I'm.
I mean, especially in this market, like you don't owe an employer anything unless you really like the job, and then
Unless you want to come back, that's what I always thought.
that's true. So, so then springboarding off of that, then you are artist at this point currently.
That's what I'm doing now. More commissions are starting to come in that I didn't go out and push for. Somebody actually will
Nice.
get a hold of me, and that feels so good. That's what I kind of feel like, if as long as I can keep that momentum going, where get a job, finish it, just make my time the right amount for what I'm asking for the
Yeah.
money. And I think and I'm a house husband.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
I'm a privileged guy I'm really lucky. My wife works hard. She has a great job. Like I said, I talked to her before I just quit and said I want to be an artist. And she's, we're lucky we don't have kids.
Yeah.
We always say that. I mean, to everybody that has kids, we don't, that's we're glad that you're keeping the species alive, but we kind of high five quite often.
I tell people all the time, don't do it. It's a trap. I mean, I love my kids and we have a lot of fun, but whenever we're thinking about having kids, and I'm like, don't do it. It's a trap. They're like, oh, look at that baby. It's so cute. I'm like, nope, that's how they trap you. Don't do it.
That's it too.
But, it's all a joke.
Well, and I guess we're both lucky. We both just at the same time kind of decided that we probably wouldn't be ready now. We say if we ever become ready, like a lot of kids need to get adopted, and
Yeah.
that would be something that we would talk about someday, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've talked about stuff like that before too, so I think that's perfectly valid. So cool. So moving on from that, where do you get your inspiration from? Like
One word.
What inspires you? Like what draws you into making art?
One word. Drugs. Just kidding. I make that joke a lot where I think it's going to get distasteful, and some people are like, this guy just does drugs. No, I used to do a lot of drugs, but I think one thing that inspires me is I'm just an avid enjoyer of creative media of every kind. I love music. I like visual stuff a lot. I like even literary works where just that's kind of in my first comic. I'm kind of trying to highlight that there are different levels of creativity, where usually when you say creative, people just go right to drawing and painting.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard this a million times, where people will look at your art and say, I can only do stick figures.
Yep.
That sentence time, and I say, well, we all start there. The difference is that I kind of had that curiosity just to push it a little further. Well, what if I try this? What if I do this? And just there, I think a lot of artists that do it long term, you probably have had this too. You had a moment early on where you said, why not me? I see these other guys that are artists. I look up to them. That seems like a really cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Why could I not be the person that's doing that too?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think at this point, the biggest thing I hear from people is, "Oh, it's cool, but that's too cartoony." I'm like, "Well, I'm not painting the Mona Lisa, man. Like, I'm trying to make cartoons. Like, that's the point."
I think that brings up a really good point that I wanted to talk about in my comic, and just kind of my work in general. I'm starting to kind of realize how to talk about it now, where I'm kind of making a joke that is between highbrow and lowbrow.
Yeah.
Where the images in my comic are, sorry,
Yeah, you're fine.
they love each other. Those guys always gonna. He loves that neighbor dog. But I think that, so the comic, a lot of people think comics are so lowbrow. Like, if you tell them it's a comic, I think that's why people started saying, no, it's a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Because just people like to put things in boxes, and then if it doesn't fit in that box, they get confused.
Yeah, it's very true.
Well, and I think what sums it up on my comic, the only words on my book are, at the very end, there's a little poem that's about the characters. It says Sticky and Chutch. That's the characters. I got to explain that real quick too,
Okay.
because it's not in the book in any words. So the main character, who's basically just me as a cartoon,
Yeah.
it's I named him Sticky because he was born a stick figure.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because everybody tries to draw themselves at first and they're a stick figure. And same with me. I tried to draw myself at first. He was a little stick figure guy. So it's kind of this meta thing about that the comic knows that it is an art piece. It's trying to say that it's self-aware that it is that this is not a story about a real person. So his name's Sticky. Another reason that his name is Sticky, there's two actually, which the first one was I thought I heard somebody introduce themselves as Sticky, and I thought, I just died laughing. I was like, that is the best name I've ever heard. And I found out later that wasn't his name. I just misheard, but I thought, oh my God, I have to name a character Sticky. I don't know why. I just thought it's so gross and stupid, but it really fits because he's a drawing. The dog's name is Chutch, and that's my actual dog's name.
Okay.
And I just made that up. It's just what he looks like. He's high, and the X makes the ch sound. That's from Basque language.
Yeah.
And so it's really funny. He's a rescue. He ran away from one of our neighbors, and we found out where he came from and talked to him. And they said, "Well, he likes your house. You keep him." But we found out they had named him Chuck. So I mean,
Okay.
it's just what he looks like. He totally gets that name. But the poem, all right, sorry, all those rants there to go off. I'll come back to the trail here. The poem on the back says, Sticky and Chutch, a boy and his dog, through the deep darkness of night and obfuscation of fog. And it's just supposed to sound very poetic, but it's in Comic Sans font.
Yeah.
And so that's
the most hated font.
Totally. And to me that's kind of, it sums it up right there. It's just like this poem. It's a poem that's supposed to be highbrow in Comic Sans font, which is people are gonna see those two and think it looks like orange and green together, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, your comic, I've reread it multiple times and tried to kind of like pinpoint like how to kind of like explain it, like thematically, like what is this? And the closest thing I can come to is just it's surrealism in like visual storytelling. Like it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. Like whatever you want into it and make it fit. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about your comic is that it's very like expertly done, like rendering wise. Like your art is fantastic, but at the same time, you have like moments of like silliness in the comic and then moments of like seriousness, but it like blends perfectly. So it kind of feels like a fever dream almost.
Thank you. Oh my God, that was a really nice compliment, man. The rendering, I really appreciate you saying that, because that first comic took me 3 years, and I just wouldn't. There's some pages I'm unhappy with now, but I kind of also knew I wanted you to see a little bit of progression. That I'm getting better all the time. So I knew, leave some of those pages in that you wish you could do better. I mean, do them better later.
Yeah, I mean it comes down to a matter of like it has to be finished. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like you have to get it out.
Yeah.
So
well, and after getting that first one done, I feel like I understand my own style more. Like, because a lot of that was kind of alchemy. I'm trying out different things that just my soul. I had this way that I think I lucked out writing this because a lot of it happened during COVID, and we were all shut in for so long. I felt really lucky in that moment that I got in front of this board and said, "You make something important. Make something important to me."
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time, but I learned a lot. Like, I think I kept trying to say, make it better, make something that somebody's really gonna like.
Cool.
But yeah, the surrealism, this is another thing that I think one of the only things that I have to stand out is that unique weirdness of the book. And I think now that I'm finding exactly my voice in that weirdness. I'm loving some of the combinations that I'm making, and I think I'm not the best artist there is. I'm not the best writer there is, and I certainly have no connections to the publishing world. But I came up with while I was writing that book, I had many times where I thought, this is too weird. They're not nobody's going to get it. Nobody's going to like it. Is this change this? And I learned to turn around and reverse that thought and grab onto and say, yes, the because no one will get this is why it's unique. If everybody got everything you're doing right away, it's not gonna. They get it. They've seen it before.
Yeah.
Basically, that's all I'd be doing is copying what I like, and I would get stuck on something that I thought it doesn't fit, but it doesn't fit in the most beautiful way. Like it
Yeah.
actually works in being so weird. And I knew people were going to say, I don't get it. And actually, I kind of like that now. When I hear people say, I don't get it, I go, well, actually, I think you get it a little more than you know.
Yeah. So not having connections to the publishing industry, like most of us don't. Your comic is self-published. I assume, right?
Yes,
You
yeah,
self-published it,
yeah.
and so then where did you get it printed at?
Oh, yikes! Here we go. This is the trap question. So
It is sort of a trap question,
it is.
but
I print, well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, you're one of the guys I go to most on what is the actual current talk of these systems
Yeah.
and places, and so I don't really know, but I appreciate, you know.
yeah,
But so that first book did get, I printed that on Amazon first with their direct publishing, and I think the book looks good, but I don't. I think the reason I wanted to publish with them first was I was just excited that there was a way that I could publish my own book, and I also thought that Amazon would market it at all. Because when you go through and you buy things, is well, somebody else likes this. You kind of look at this,
yeah,
and they would suggest other. They suggest a million other things besides the one thing you look for. Thought that would happen with my book, and it doesn't. And the content is it's over 18, which you don't have to specify anything that is over 18 gets you on a certain list, and they can't market it. Which I don't even know that that would do me any favors, even if
yeah,
they did. I think a lot of the comic business is we have to go out and knock on doors, and we have to go see comics.
yeah. No, I joke about. I was pretty sure you had said that you'd done it through Amazon, and I joke about like don't print through Amazon. I've printed 3 books through Amazon. I did eventually take them down. Well, I took 2 of them down. Amazon took one down. They flagged it for copyright infringement. It was an Inktober. It was like an Inktober art book that I was drawing well-known cartoon IPs, but I'm not sure if they took it down because of the artwork inside or if it was because I was using the word Inktober on the cover. And Jake Parker now goes after people for using Inktober because it's his licensed property, even though he spent years trying to get people involved in this thing. So
Yeah.
So I don't know which reason, but it was pulled down, but my other Inktober one wasn't. But I don't print through Amazon anymore because I don't like billionaires.
Oh man, it's in Amazon. I can't. There's, yeah, right. Like,
but I don't know where how you would get anything printed
well,
without dealing with those type of people. So it's
there
kind of
are, some of the other people at our groups have mentioned some places that they go through, and actually, this is kind of funny. Just today, I got an email from a Canadian company that said, "Well, we just found your email in the ISBN database. If you want to print another book, consider us." And actually, I was like, that's kind of cool. Unless it's a scam, which I'm gonna do research.
which
of course.
company?
I can't remember what they're called, but they said they're from Canada. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do work with Canada now.
Trying to think because I've printed through Mixam.com
I don't think
before, which I thought was Canadian based, but I've had things shipped from Canada, but then I've also had things shipped from like northern US, so I'm not entirely sure where they're based at, but I'd be interested to find out who that is
Well,
though.
it's funny. Every batch of books that I order from Amazon, it says where it's printed in the back, and every batch has been a different place. Like one was New York, one was Las Vegas, one was Wisconsin.
Yeah, they just kind of print them all over the place. So yes, if printing through Amazon is how you get your book out, that is fine. Do it. I was only joking with him because I don't like Amazon, but I've used Amazon, so
I agree. We're all humans. I mean, use
it's
what works for you.
whatever is the easiest way for you to get your content out, go for it.
Especially if you're just starting. Like I would say that actually it wasn't a bad place for me to start
No,
printing it
not at
because the
all.
book looked gorgeous.
Yeah.
So.
But if you're going to go through places like Amazon, where they only do specific sizes, make sure your book is formatted to that size. Because the worst thing you can do is have a comic in comic size that has weird black or white bars down the side of your page because it doesn't fit properly. But that's why you contact people like me and Sam to help you figure that out.
That's right. Now I learned editing doing that first book where I almost thought about, maybe I should start my own publishing company now because I know all the spots of resizing.
Yep, that is also a trap. Don't go that route. That's why we're moving more towards the distro portion of it, away from the publishing portion.
Well,
I mean, I like to publish stuff. I don't want to get contacted by everyone that decides they
want to show you, have you sell their book for them.
I get our website clearly states that, like, we do zines, so smaller formats, shorter runs, and it's all illustrated works. Like, we're focusing on illustrated works. And at least once a week we have somebody contacting us about, like, oh, I have this poem book I want to publish, or I have this like sci-fi anthology I'm trying to put together of, like, here's my manuscript, and I'm like, you didn't read the submissions, like, we don't do that. So
well, this, and I think our area, I wish we just had more of a creative culture. Like I think you and me, the group that we're in, and
mm-hmm.
kind of the stuff we do is pretty much the height of the art culture around here. I know there's more, but I mean,
I think we're the most active portion of the group that's around. I mean, there used to be the Swell Artist Collective,
I talked to Noble and he said that it just people, and it's so funny. I get this too. He said, well, just nobody wants to show up and do all the stuff. And it's like, I don't either. I'm the same way. I'm like a lone wolf.
Yeah, no, I got it. Like, I was in it, Nathan, Julia, there was a ton of us that were in it. And it originally started as a group of 5 of them that were all working together, and it slowly whittled its way down to where it was just Noble running it and trying to put everything together. And I can see how that could be really taxing on somebody. So
yeah, but like doing it individually the way we do is hard enough, but having to run for other artists because we're all weirdos too. Everybody probably
yep.
Everybody had their own requests. Well, but and I think it's starting to kind of liven up. I think after we got done with COVID, then people were pretty stoked to get back together and start doing stuff. So I think that will help a little.
All right. So circling back around, do you have an education in art?
I do. I got my bachelor's in fine art with an emphasis in illustration from BSU. I graduated in 2018.
Okay, cool.
I wouldn't. So if the question, I know a lot of people ask if they haven't gone to school, is school worth it? Is school what you need to do to move on? And I'll say this. I think for me personally, school helped me with a lot of things. Like one thing it really helped me with was learning how to research what I want to research.
Yeah.
Being able to actually dig deep into a subject instead of just a cursory Google glance, it really helps in the richness of my book. Just with I get told all the time there's just too much stuff in there, and it's like, yeah, I really love going into a rabbit hole and then just picking every little thing off on the sides as I go through.
Yeah.
But I think though you don't need it these days, and I would really love to say to the people that are nervous that think I need it and I can't afford it, I don't have time, I probably won't go to school, so I might not do this. I really want to push that that's not really the way it is. You can learn absolutely everything that I learned in college on a YouTube video. I would say even the stuff that got me more into the administration side of art. That's not just creating art. Having to log your work and your time.
Yeah.
Those types of things you can learn everything for free out on social media and things like that. So I don't think you have to, but if you have the opportunity to, it really does help. But I wouldn't go to BSU again.
Well, and I never finished my bachelor's. I just have an associate's in graphic design, so I also went to school. And I'm on the fence as far as like, do you need college these days? Because I agree, you can learn anything you want almost for free on the internet at this point. And for things that are a little more complex, you can pay for like tutorials or like, things on like Udemy and um, different websites like that where you're paying a small amount to learn the specific skills you're looking for as opposed to years of education at a high cost. I think the main difference is if you were very self-motivated and like a self-starter and committed, you don't necessarily need school because you can put yourself through that to get it done. If you are someone that cannot stay focused and have trouble getting through school as it is, I mean, it wouldn't be worth it. But then if you can't stay on topic, sometimes that structure of having the school will help you get through that. But again, I don't think it's necessary.
Well, that brings up a really good point because with drawing class, specifically learning how to draw with a pencil on paper, when it was like, you got 2 hours, now sit here and draw this bicycle for 2 hours.
Yep.
I left a couple times. The teacher was like, listen, you're leaving too early. I got to write you down. I was like, I'm sorry. I can't sit here for this long. So I'd make sure that I used to drink a lot when I went to school. And that was, like
It's the college
probably pretty
experience.
obvious. But I mean, I drink a lot before I went to class all the
Okay.
time. Like I made sure that I was pretty buzzed before I went in. And so I was just like, oh, I'll make sure, I would always say to her, like, I'll make sure I have my medication, right? And I would just get really drunk and just, but having to sit down like that, I think is so good. If somebody can force you to sit down with a piece of paper and some pencil and say, you just gotta draw, just go with, like, be bored until you're not bored, until you're having fun doing those motions.
Yeah.
And that I think was really weird.
And yeah, so I mean, some people need that structure to, learn. Some people don't.
Yeah.
And that's
God-
kind of
God
something
bless
you have
them.
to decide to work for you.
There's a lot of factors that would make something worth it or not, But I think, though, yeah, I think some of the questions that younger artists have when they want to come up. Another one is social media. Do I need to get good at social media?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to really think not. Like and this is only kind of recently that I'm kind of figuring this out. Like here's another thing. Okay, this kind of goes into the college thing too. A lot with social media in college, I also kind of have always thought maybe you need these things to make connections. And I don't think that I made any of those connections online, at college. The ones where I thought, well, this me and help me, or this will be a person that we start a group together. We'll be like friends that do art, and it just none of that really happened for me. But I'm kind of a weirdo,
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah, I don't know that social media has ever really helped me. I think the biggest one for me is I got stories published in an Australian anthology, Death Candy, because of someone who'd never been to Australia. But me and him, we met online because he had a very similar, like Jonan Vasquez, Invader Zim, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac type style that I loved. And I actually found him on Twitter and then followed him on Instagram, and we started talking. But it was almost 10 years before we even did anything together, and now disappeared from social media. I have to email him to get a hold of him and make sure he's still alive every once in a while. So yeah, social media, while it can be fun, I kind of feel like it's more of a time suck than, I mean, it is a tool. You want to be able to show people stuff when you're not actually getting out and doing shows, but I think you're more likely to make connections going to conventions and shows and actually talking to people.
Seriously, I think if I can ever remember to use social media just as my gallery, just where I post and you can see, and also it's a good place to communicate. There's the message boards help. That's one thing that I like. Some people don't have my phone number. We can connect on that. But if I can remember, just get into the doom scrolling and just because they're designed to do that, give you interesting stuff to keep looking at. And my brain, I tell you, you can probably tell by all the different things that I do, I have a squirrel brain. Like I just think and I enjoy and just
Well, I think that's kind of the artist's whole there, because you want to explore every medium and anything that pops into your head. Me and Levi talked about that last episode. How do you deal with the ever growing pile of projects that you you seemingly bring on? And it's my house isn't big. I just move them from one spot to another. Like I don't really have a place to store them.
I had to build all those shelves in there just so I
Yeah.
could start putting stuff away there. Yeah, I think though that social media is, it's funny. It's like drugs and alcohol. And the funny thing is, I think it affects the exact same parts of our brain that
Oh yeah.
drugs and alcohol do. Because if you can't understand that you can do it too much, you're gonna do it too much.
Yep. No, that's a very valid point. Cool. Well, I guess that's mostly wrapping up the questions that I have. I mean, a lot of them I didn't have to ask because we just kind of naturally moved into them, so it was really easy. I mean, is there anything else you want people to know or hear about?
Yeah, let me think. Like there always is. Tell some fun stories real quick. No,
Yeah, if you want. I mean,
all right. Well, here's a quick one, and this isn't even, man. I have so many fun stories, but this is just a quick one. When I was going to BSU, I did for one semester. I did the cartoon on the back of the campus paper, the Arbiter,
oh, okay.
and and some people didn't get those cartoons either. Like I think you'd look at them and you'd say, "Oh, this is classic." Um, but one of the cartoons that I did was every time I'd be driving to school, there was a Pizza Hut right next to the campus, and there was a kid that worked for the Pizza Hut that had like a mohawk, and he dressed like a punk, and he just had the sign for Pizza Hut that was like, "We got a deal for Pizza Hut" or whatever, and he would
Okay.
sit there and dance and mosh with his Pizza Hut sign, and he made my morning. Every time I saw this kid, I was like, "Oh, I got to do something for him." And I used to be best friends with the guy that was managing that pizza back in high school.
Okay.
So I called him up and I said, "Hey man, ask that kid what he would want his sign to say if I made a cartoon of him waving that sign around." And he had him say, "Will Mosh for beer." Somebody's like giving him a 40. And so I did that and I can't remember, one of the news channels, one of the local news channels interviewed that kid because of my cartoon. They showed
Nice.
my cartoon, interviewed the kid, and didn't, I don't know if they even mentioned my name, but they never interviewed me. They never asked me. They never even talked to me. Then they went back to this kid a couple years later and did one of those, "Where are they at
Oh,
now?"
funny.
And I'm like, I'm glad though, like I would
Yeah.
have liked to get mentioned or something, but I just thought that was cool that gave that kid like a moment in the spotlight because his energy. I was like, he deserves something like that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I mean, always got to cite your sources, though, people. Even the media. Come on, guys.
Yeah, right.
Uh, have any artists that you're super into right now?
Ooh, that is a good question. So this is funny. I'm my thing right now is I want to be a comic creator,
Hmm.
and I tell people that like I'm making a comic, and some people say, well, "Oh, I'm not really into comics." I'm like, well, actually, I'm kind of not either.
Yeah.
Like I like weird stuff. One that I got that I really like, Matthew Allison's Cancor.
Oh,
And
yeah.
what's really funny is, okay, so there's actually two that I wanted to mention, Cancor, and then the other one is James Herron's Ultra Mega.
Okay.
It's kind of a newer one. Uh, just love the illustrations. They're both just brilliant illustrators. But the funny, I was seeing so many similarities in the actual content of the books because they're kind of surreal superheroes,
Yeah.
which I'm sure that's, mine is kind of like that. But those are two books that I like now. There's just not a whole lot of words, nothing you really have to pay too hard attention to, but just gorgeous illustration.
Nice. Any artist recommendations of people locally or outside to try and get on the podcast next?
Oh man, let me start throwing out some names. Okay,
I
you
mean, I
should
have a
you
list,
should have me do you. We could do that, man. I could interview you
could.
because you should be one, I think. Um, and it's funny. I'm almost going to start throwing out some Ontario, Oregon people because they're in our group, but
Yeah.
I think we should do local before because they're actually really good at spotlighting their own artists. Like the Bordertown Comic Con in
Yeah.
Ontario, they highlighted their own local artists. I thought
Yeah, they're really good at it.
we don't do that a lot in Boise, but I like Steve Wilhite. He was highlighted at the show. He's just such a nice guy.
Yep.
He's
Love
so
Steve.
funny. He's so nice.
I met him through Swell. He was a
Yeah.
member when I started there, so
His work is really good.
he used to live around here.
Oh, another guy that he doesn't really he hangs out some and he's on the thing. Julius Bridgeforth.
Mhm.
That guy's a genius. He's working on some really cool project
Yeah.
where it's a comic that will have music that goes with it, and he's a genius.
Yeah, I've been interested to see where that goes.
Sugar May would be a cool one.
Yeah.
She is a genius. When you talk to her about art, I really like talking to her about art because she just has a very it seems to her, and this is the same with me, it feels like the art is a real spiritual experience.
Yeah.
It's like a really deep down, hard to explain thing that I just really like talking about with her.
Yeah, she's an interesting personality. She intimidates me a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's one reason why I bug her so much, because, and I even told her that once. I said, I think when I show her pictures of my art first, I think that's like a litmus test, because I think she's the coolest person I've ever met. So
Yeah.
like,
and to clarify, she is super nice. She will pretty much talk to anyone. Just something about her as an artist makes you nervous to talk to another artist. I can't explain it.
she's a brilliant illustrator too.
She really
never
is.
brings her work around or talks about her actual illustrations.
I
And
know.
it's gorgeous. It's like good, really, really smart work. But she's cool. Let me think. Are there any others? God, it would kind of be fun. So I have this woman that I hang out with. She was a caretaker for one of my neighbors that passed away, and I was just walking the dog by, and we just started talking about art for some reason, because I mentioned that's what I do. And so we just started hanging out like friends. She's like almost 80 years old, and she's the coolest old woman in the world. And but then it started to get to where she wants to do a poetry book. She doesn't want to do visual art, but she wants to do poetry, and she wants me to illustrate it. We're back and forth a lot on this idea, which I don't know. I'll never have to get started, because her brain is so creative that she can't pin it down, which I think that's okay. I think I'm not gonna push her, but I try to. We help each other out and stuff. But I think it would almost kind of be really neat to interview her, because one of the reasons we can't get anything done is she will tell the most amazing, interesting stories that go. Like one time she saw ball lightning in her house. I mean, they're just, the stories are so crazy, and they come out of nowhere, and she always has a new one. So I think it might be kind of cool to interview her, but I don't even know if she would let me, because I asked her once if I could. I just said, let me just tell me stories into a camera or something.
Yeah.
And she's not too cool on that, but she's a really neat lady. So I don't know. I'm a weird guy, so I'm like, I'm going to show you a homeless guy that tells me about art.
Yeah.
There's actually, so you know what? If we would go outside of our group and that type of thing, there is a guy that lives just a block behind me that I met, that he's an artist, and the more he keeps revealing to me, he's a genius. He made this brass Thai god statue. He poured this and did the glass eyes. But this guy's a genius. He does these balance statues that balance by weight, and this one that you can get in and ride like you're in a dream. You're bouncing while the guy's a genius. So I think it would be kind of neat. I don't even know what he would talk about, because he does a lot of different things. He's doing statues, he does music, but he's kind of one of those. He's like a genius. So his name's Joe Silva. So let me try to see if my older gal friend, she might not want me to mention her name.
Okay.
So that's why
that's perfectly fine.
So I would want to call out to everybody I could, but
yeah,
she's cool. She's like underground.
Cool. Well, where can people find your work if they want to look more into you?
Well, what's really funny is whenever I go to the cons, I tell people this is kind of a unique event. I don't put some of this art even online at all.
Yeah.
Instagram is basically what I do right now.
Okay.
It's just a good gallery. I know a lot of people say they're leaving it, which I will figure out why and leave it soon myself too, I'm sure. But for right now, that's kind of the only place that I put any work.
Yeah, and I'm not on Instagram so much at this point. I haven't completely left it, because that's where people are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want people to see your stuff, you kind of have to put it there. But I'm experimenting with a few other places and really revamping my own website and trying to get that all built up.
Nice.
So,
man, Yeah, I was kind of sad when you said you're not going to do shows anymore. I thought nobody's going to be there to talk shit when I'm late.
Yeah.
Showing up right at opening
Well, I
time.
mean, I'm not gonna do shows. I mean, I'm probably gonna do, if it happens this year, Boise Zine Fest.
Nice. Okay.
Like I love doing Boise Zine Fest. I think that's where you and I actually
Yeah,
met.
that was no. We met at BCAF.
Was it BCAF?
Mm-hmm. But then we were boothing next to each other at the Zine Fest.
At the
so,
Zine
yeah, we
Fest
got to hang out
at Kava.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was a good show.
So,
that first one.
Yeah, it's a small, fun event. So
yeah. The last one that I did there, it was kind of cold and I was underdressed.
Yeah.
So I was sad, but that's okay. It was still fun.
Cool. Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, then I guess I can also say I'm going to do some other shows this year.
Cool.
I have May 10th and 11th. I have the Beltane Renaissance Festival.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be in full garb if somebody wants to see me in my rad cosplay. Which I don't take pictures of that either. That's kind of so funny. But eventually I'm going to, I got to get comfortable with that. The next one, the weekend right after that is the 17th and 18th of May is the Gem State Comic Con. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a pretty big one this year. One of the actresses from the Harry Potter movies is there. They got a lot of actors that are going to go sign autographs. And I don't know if you know the movie Clerks.
I love Clerks. I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan.
Me too. And I got the guy that plays Dante and then the gal that plays his girlfriend in Clerks, they're going to be there signing autographs. And I already set up a photo booth session. So hopefully I'm going to give them my comic and see if they'll react to my comic in the photo or something.
Clerks 3 killed me. I felt a little betrayed by Kevin Smith on that one because I feel like I'm 43, so I don't know how much I've grown up, but I've grown up with the characters from Clerks in my life the whole time. So for Kevin Smith to do us dirty like that and kill off Dante, I'm sorry if no one's seen this movie. I'm sure you have, but one of the main characters dies, and it kind of hurt my feelings. I own it. I unfortunately bought it on DVD before I saw it because I'm like, it's a Kevin Smith film. I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna watch it. And then I watched it. I'm like, I can't watch this movie ever again. I'll do Clerks 2. I'll do any of the Jay and Silent Bobs. You ruined Clerks for me, Kevin Smith.
Well, I really liked that first one, just how indie it was.
Yeah.
And that was some of my formative years when that was actually at the video store. I got a gas station job because of that movie. It was so cool.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess that wraps up this episode, and I'll get this posted, and we'll get all the social media stuff and links done, and we'll be good to go.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for.
And that wraps up this episode, you guys. It was awesome having Sam on. I had a lot of fun talking to him. We'll get him back on here in the future. I need to make one correction. At one point, we were talking about Eli, who I interviewed in the last episode, and I referred to him as Levi, and I don't know why. For some reason, it slipped out that way, and I felt really dumb about it. So again, thank you, Sam, for being on this latest episode. It was a blast talking to you. Check out Sam's other work and chat it with him about commissions and whatnot through his Instagram page. I'll have that linked in the description. The theme song for the podcast is Escape the Maze by the Lab Brats, used by permission from Adam Wallace. Thank you, Adam. It means so much to me that you let me use this. Again, it's me, Chopsy, and you've been listening to the Caffeine Fueled Creatives podcast. You can find all my links and see my other work at itsmechopsy.com. Until next time, drink some caffeine and be creative.